I wanted to talk to you today about creative fears and how they can sometimes be really paralyzing and discouraging. Um, I don't know about you, but sometimes when I am not as productive as I would like to be and I don't get the things done that I promised myself I would, like this entire fucking week, it's incredibly frustrating and it really does impact my self-confidence. And I was just wondering if any of you have ever felt this way. I think when you start something, especially when it's an artistic pursuit, you kind of have to be a little bit delusional when it comes to your abilities, because otherwise you just don't start anything. But I do fear that that's just what it is, a delusion. Like I feel myself improving, I feel myself getting better, but maybe it's just castles in the skies that I'm building in my head. Hopefully not. Trying to remind myself that progress is progress no matter what I might feel about it. But also, I was hoping to get to a point where I would feel like I was undeniably worthy of making art. And the more that I make art, the more that I'm realizing and accepting that I will never reach that miraculous point. I'm just going to have to learn to manage my fears a little bit better and my self-doubt a little bit better. And yeah, if you're feeling the same thing, I'm really curious to know what you do to feel a little bit less vulnerable. Because I think as artists, we have this mentality that unless we're incredibly good at something, we don't really deserve to make art, which is not the most helpful thought when you're starting something and not very good at it yet. One of my fears is that I'm boring and therefore my art is boring and all of the time and all of the energy that I'm putting into it is just a waste of time, not just for myself, but worst of all, for other people. And honestly, what I've done in those situations is either tell myself okay, am I bored? And if I'm not bored, if I'm still interested, then I'll keep working on it and we'll just have to hope that other people will also be interested in the same thing. But if I am bored, then it's just a question of either leaving it for later or going back to the drawing board completely and rethinking of another idea that sparks more of an interest from me. One of the things that I'm ashamed of a little bit is how messy my creative process can be and just how messy in general I am, frankly. My creative process will start somewhere and then will sort of end God knows where on a piece of paper scattered in my room. And it basically what I have to do is bring them all together and somehow form them into some sort of coherent thing. And that takes a lot of energy and a lot of time. And I get that some of that is part of the creative process, but sometimes I do feel oh my God, I want to do all of these massive, kind of ambitious things, and I can't even do the most basic organizing. But luckily, I have seen this Instagrammer and creator called Colleen who reminded me that messiness is part of the process and actually is an indication of progress, and so it's nothing to be ashamed of. So this next fear that I'm going to talk about is a fear that I've seen friends and myself come to tears over. And it's a perfectly legitimate fear, and it's basically the fear that no one is going to want to work with us anymore. Because we make mistakes, we're human. And the thing is, it's really difficult to almost impossible as a filmmaker to make a project by yourself. So I think the scary thing about working with people is that to a certain extent there are a lot of things that you cannot control, a lot of circumstances that you cannot control that affect the group dynamic and that affect how you communicate with people. The only thing that you can control is how you communicate. It's the way that you listen, and it's the way that you apologize when and if necessary. Beyond that, there's not much that you can do. And frankly, even with all that combined, some people are just not your people and vice versa, and there's nothing you can do about it. And also, it's okay. It is not the end of the world. The last fear that I want to talk about, and this is one that's really hard for me, is I feel like I am lazy and I should be working a lot harder at this, because obviously if I love this thing, shouldn't I be much better at it by now? The truth is the only thing that I can do is continue to practice and hope that that will eventually lead to my work improving. I think also one of the things that has really helped me be a little bit less hard on myself is to try over and over again to find the joy in the creative process as opposed to the final product. This is something that I've mentioned before, but it has really helped me. Yeah, I just wanted to make this video as a reminder to both me and you that there is creative joy just waiting around the corner, despite any of our fears, any and all of our fears. Being a creative is our birthright, and it doesn't matter if we get money from it. It doesn't matter if we become known, despite the fact that those things would be lovely. But no matter what, creating is never a waste of time. So keep making, and let's keep having each other's backs. Thank you so much for watching. See you in the next video.